Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Bianca Beck, and I am the Middle East Marketing Manager for the Sovereign Group. I just want to let you know about a couple of house rules. So we will be recording today's session, so that means that it will be available to rewatch when the webinar concludes. We encourage and welcome any questions in the Q&A section, and Oksana and Nirav will be able to answer as many of them as possible when we get to the end of the webinar today. And we'll also be releasing some polls throughout the session just to encourage some engagement, but also gauge your knowledge on the topic, and then maybe see how we might be able to assist you and help you further. So by popular demand, I'm really pleased to introduce today's topic, UAE Foundations. It seems to be a topic that has a lot of our clients, a lot of our partners really interested. So you're in great hands today with the session today with our speakers. I'm really pleased to introduce you to our speakers. So joining me, my colleague is Oksana Sukhar, who is our Senior Business Development Manager based in our Dubai office. And she is joined by Nirav Shah from Fame Advisory. He's the director over there. So I'm really pleased to hand over to Oksana, who will take you through today's session.
Hello, everyone. We are very delighted to have our session today, and thank you very much to joining us. Yeah, me and Nirav, we are delighted to have this webinar together for you. So let me start from the overview of the current situation in the UAE. We can definitely see that Dubai is booming, and it's really historical time for us, as UAE remains one of the most attractive global destinations at the moment. And we can see huge influx of the millionaires. If figures doesn't lie, it's around 9.8 thousand millionaires from UK, US, Europe, India, and China moving to the UAE, which make us very, very busy. And as per current projection, we can see that the population of the UAE will increase almost 12 million people in the future, hopefully in 2026. Of course, we all ask the question why these people are moving here. What are the key advantages? And definitely these are legal independence of the jurisdiction. Today, we can say definitely Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they are top tier world financial centers. Opportunities for succession planning, infrastructure, confidentiality, and of course, one of my favorite topic, zero income tax. There is no income tax on individuals. We have little corporate tax, just 9%. And one of the main reasons why we are here today, we wanted to discuss how to plan right the structure and how to protect your wealth and plan for a few generations in the future if you decided or maybe planning to move to the UAE.
So thank you, Oksana, and thank you, Sovereign, for having us together. It's an interesting topic, and of course, UAE has established itself as one of the leading financial center globally now. And the attractiveness of the UAE not only lies in having compliances now, but also in the overall framework, the accessibility, the infrastructure, the overall safety and security, and the definitiveness around many things which are a lot more ambiguous maybe elsewhere. So that's kind of draws people to come and be here, and that's why we are all seeing this boom, right?
Yeah, 100%. And the government sees the opportunity, especially with the introduction of golden visas, which boost the economy and they retain the talent, they
Yes.
attract wealthy individuals here. And even, which is not the case in the past, they announce retirement visa and people still can remain in the UAE when they finish their career or they move to the UAE for retirement.
That's right. So, I mean, a lot of attractive features, and plus government themselves go out of the way and market a lot. So that also helps all of us.
100%. And today our topic are foundations. We would like to let you know more about this product, if it's trust, if it's company, what type of the structure is available, and where you can register the foundation in the UAE.
So maybe you want to give an overview on the foundation as a trust or a company. Let's just look at that and then kind of start driving more into what happens with it.
Definitely. So most of us are familiar with trust structures for private clients and high net worth individuals, which is very popular in common law jurisdiction. But we have to inform all of you that UAE is not common law jurisdiction, it's civil law jurisdiction, and the government came with the idea to introduce foundations, which was copied from the Liechtenstein law. And today we have in the UAE this fantastic product, which allows everyone to plan and structure their wealth. And it has both features of the trust and foundation. And the main feature is the separation of the ownership from the individual to the legal entity.
See, the unique part is that while foundation is a civil law concept, we have it available to be set up under DIFC and ADGM, which are common law jurisdictions. So this has never happened anywhere else in the world.
Yes.
That in a common law framework, you have availability of a civil law product, which is foundation, to be set up, regulated, and operated. So that's the uniqueness about this feature in UAE.
And on top of all of this, DIFC and IGGM, they have an opportunity to choose their court, which follow common law. And in RAC ICC, they give you a freedom to choose which court would you like to apply.
So while RAC ICC gives you a freedom to choice, DIFC and ADGM are by default common law courts. So that kind of helps you much better. But now, do you want to take them through what is the difference between a foundation, a trust, and a company?
Yes, exactly. So first of all, trust is not a legal entity, is obligation, and foundation, similar to company, is a legal entity. Regarding the governance, foundation is governed by charter and by laws, and it's managed in similar manner, same as a company by council seats as directors. Regarding the asset protection, what I can admit that foundation might have the highest level of asset protection. Trust has very strong level, and companies are moderate.
So if I add there, because foundation is set up as a corporate entity, it has, I would say, equal amount of protection from third-party claims, creditor claims, and all of that, because you have moved actually the ownership into the legal entity, which is separate from the founder or the beneficiary. So that might become a little more stronger, and once that is tried in a common law courts, that will even be much more stronger than even having a trust arrangement.
Exactly. And in terms of the succession, foundation offers the most smooth solution. In case of the death of the patriarch, there is no requirement for will or probate because foundation will keep on functioning and it will follow letter of wishes, which is in some way similar to trust if it's discretionary trust.
In fact, what one must understand is that once the assets are owned by foundation, which is a separate legal entity, they are no longer assets of the founder, and therefore no heirship laws can apply to those assets at all. And therefore, becomes one of the most ideal option available to anyone to decide the will of their assets after their lifetime in a predefined manner. This is the best option that anybody would have then.
And also in the UAE, you can have opportunity to morph your company into foundation. If you decide to change your company and convert to foundation, the options are available in DIFC and TRAC ICC.
That's true, but that's still not as picked up as yet. But you can still own the company through the foundation and can get the same result.
Yeah, quite similar. I agree. So talking about the foundations, let's move forward to our next point of discussion. What are the main reasons why people choose foundation?
So we are seeing majority are choosing it for two reasons. Of course, the asset protection or succession planning or those which are standard reasons. But now for UAE, the one of the major reason is the tax pass-through benefit. And therefore, it becomes an obvious choice when you want to hold investments in real estate. So you have a corporate structure which is holding it, which is owning it, and therefore you can also then define who will own it going forward, how will it be managed, and all that can be defined very well. And that helps you to navigate all of the issues that you can you can potentially face going forward. So that's why it's becoming more and more popular. And if you see that uh, um, that why this how do we structure it, and this is where we say that, okay, so you have a founder on one side, you have a qualified recipient, as they call the beneficiaries. So it can be founder himself also, because we don't have personal taxation here. So founder can be a beneficiary in this part of the world. Of course, if somebody is governed by a UK or other sophisticated jurisdiction where they are personally taxable, then of course we will choose not to name them as a beneficiary, as qualified recipient, but the family members can be. And generally, we end up doing a dual tier of the qualified recipient, that you have uh, the patriarch and the wife as the first qualified recipient during their lifetime. And after they pass on, that's when we name the second generation, which is the children, to take over as the qualified recipient, right? And therefore, it solves the purpose of succession, but during their lifetime, it still retains the control with them. And that's not a problem from a UAE or a Middle Eastern perspective, because they don't have personal taxation.
Yes.
If you have personal taxation, you can't retain that control and you have to necessarily give it to a third party or a professional, right? Here, instead, you can do that. So that's a better option from Middle Eastern families' perspective, that they can put the assets in the foundation. If they put it in any trust anywhere in the world, they'll have to give that control to the authorized or registered trustees. And they'll feel very uncomfortable about giving away that control over those assets. Here in the local foundation, because we don't have the personal tax or any other issues, they can still retain the control over it and can get the same pass-through tax benefit as if it would have been taxed in the hands of the individual. And therefore, it is becoming a no-brainer for a lot of them to use this mechanism or use this structure very well. Secondly, when you see the chart here, you can practically put any kind of assets into the foundation. You can either set it up through a holding company or an SPV and own the operating assets, or even a lot of these things of investments and all can be done directly at the foundation level also, because foundation is a corporate entity and it can take title, it can take ownership in its own name, unlike a trust, right? So in a trust structure, you'll always need a SPV to own a lot of these things. In foundation, if only if you want to bifurcate or distance the foundation from the operational issues of the SPV, you may keep the things separately. But that's a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a mandatory requirement. And therefore, you can effectively have all of this type of assets either under a separate SPV below or directly owned under the foundation, depending on what you like. So generally, what we recommend for families, that if they are leveraging in the business or in the investments, then you keep it under a separate SPV, because you don't want to harm your foundation or personal assets with any of that leverage outcome. So that's why we keep it away one step if you are leveraging at that level. If you are not, you can pretty much keep all the way same. So that's why this is more important, and one needs to understand that council members are the one which are running the foundation on day-to-day basis. And you can provide a mechanism of how you appoint council members, how you replace them, and who takes over, and what are the qualification of becoming a council member. You can also have some professionals to make sure that the entire governance is being vetted, being complied with properly, and filed properly, right? So that also can be added in the entire structure. And if you still want an outside chance of removing, replacing council member and all that, you can appoint a guardian. Like in a trust, you have a protector. Here you can have a guardian. So that same roles are there, but in this structure, there's a less and less requirement, because from a Middle Eastern family perspective, if you are resident in any of the Middle Eastern countries, then because we do not have personal taxation, you can keep some amount of control with you. And you can just have a professional as an added person on the council to make sure that governance is being taken care of, compliance is being taken care of. So that's what we would generally recommend everyone, And therefore, I want you to elaborate of what all can go inside the foundation, what you are seeing, and then we'll talk about the tax treatment of that.
Yeah. So the key members in the foundation are founder, which can be individual, also it can be the company. The founder is setting up foundation and define its purpose. It can retain powers because he can amend bylaws, and also he can replace council, and all can be drafted in charter and bylaws. And these documents are given as a templates from the government, and they're very clear and simple. And we as a corporate service provider are here to guide you, or you can also engage lawyer who has experience in multi-jurisdiction to structure in the manner that it can cover your assets in different countries. Because as it was mentioned in the previous slide, that foundation can own multiple SPVs, it can own multiple companies in different countries as well, which can own different class of assets. If, for example, foundation is not permitted to own property, let's say in Switzerland or in France, for example. So moving forward, we already identified founder who can also be a council seat. And in the UAE, normally foundation is managed by 2 council seats. It can be corporate, it can be individual. The difference in IGGM, one must be individual. In the IFC or KCC, it can be combination or just corporate, and your corporate service provider can take the role if the client feel comfortable. And guardian is optional. He oversees the day-to-day management of the foundation, and he can veto decisions, and it's another layer of protection in foundation. So beneficiaries, this is very interesting in the UAE because this is the key difference in terms of the structuring. If someone decides to structure through the trust, that founder can be beneficiary, which is not the case with trust. And especially for the UAE, it's something really unique and attract a lot of families, both Muslim and non-Muslim. So main advantages of the foundation in the UAE, which is governed in the IFC and IGM by common law. You have flexibility to change charter and bylaws, and also beneficiaries are not disclosed in registers, which is great.
So again, the advantage here is that because there's no personal taxation here, in trust laws in those countries, you recommend that a settler should never be a beneficiary. Because otherwise, as per the legal jurisprudence, the trust arrangement will be considered as sham. Because you're only making a commercial arrangement and there's nothing beyond that. Here, because its foundation is a legal entity per se, you are in effect transferring the ownership. And that cannot be denied even if the founder is also a beneficiary. Because benefits are only potential and in future and discretionary.
Yes.
So because of which this becomes a stronger option to have. So when we start talking about how and what in UAE corporate tax, family foundations, when has an option. So it's an option. Please understand that by default, a foundation is a corporate entity. Therefore, it needs to register for corporate tax, right? Then it has an option to be treated as tax transparent, similar to an unincorporated partnership. So that option one must exercise and file an application for that treatment, right? Then you get that exemption. It's not automatic under the law. So if you are a foundation, you are a corporate entity, therefore you are a resident juridical person under the corporate tax law, and you are supposed to be paying tax. You have an option under Article 17. You can make an application to FTA that because my foundation has all the beneficiaries which are individual, therefore my income should be treated as if it is earned by an unincorporated partnership. which are received in the hands of this individual. And in the hands of this individual, this type of income, which is investment, real estate, or rental, or similar, are not taxable, and therefore the foundation income should not be taxed.
Yeah, this is very.
And this is the premise on which the foundation gets the tax transparency. This is, one must understand this clearly. It's a corporate entity. You need to register for tax. You need to apply for exemption. And provided all the beneficiaries are individuals, you will get that exemption. In some cases, if you are not earning income, if all your beneficiaries are not individual, FTA may reject that exemption also. And they'll tell you, okay, you're not earning any income now, you don't need exemption. When you start earning income, apply in that year for an exemption. And that also has happened with few of our clients, right? So family foundation, as any foundation, trust, a similar entity used to protect and manage the assets and wealth of a individual or family. This is how it is defined in the corporate tax law. So it has two conditions: beneficiary condition and principal activity condition. That beneficiaries need to be natural person, identifiable natural person, and it should not be engaged in any business. It should be principal activity of the foundation is to receive, hold, invest, disburse, or otherwise manage assets or fund associated with savings or investment. So foundation, even by DIFC law, is not allowed to do any business directly. It can own the shares of an operating company. Yes, because that's an investment. But it cannot conduct business by itself. Though one must remember that DIFC and ADGM both grants a commercial license to foundation, but that is not licensed to do business. Okay. So this is very important. We are just highlighting this just for the sake of clarity so that people don't confuse that if there's any other entity which has a trade license, we will it's carrying on business.
Yeah.
Here, though it has a commercial license, by law it is not allowed to carry on business. Right? Now we come to corporate tax law, and it has put three conditions on the foundation to be eligible for this exemption. So it should not carry on any business. So no business activity condition, very clear, right? It can hold assets, it can hold investments, it can generate investment returns, and anything that needs to be done passively. Okay. No active business to be conducted by foundation. It is not set up only to take advantage of the tax situation.
Yeah.
So there has to be a larger purpose of asset protection, succession planning, why you are setting up this foundation. Okay. And the third condition is the distribution condition. Okay. That where any of the beneficiaries are public benefit entities. So if you make a public benefit entity or a trust a beneficiary, then it needs to pass on the distribution of the income within 6-month period to such public benefit entity. If it is individual, there is no such condition. So these are three conditions that you need to meet and demonstrate that you are meeting these conditions when you make an application for exemption with the FTL. Right? Now, the CT period for foundation is a default period. So many other corporate entities has a choice of choosing its own financial period. In foundation's case, it is January to December. It's the Gregorian calendar year because that is the default period for individuals. So foundation cannot choose any other period because you are giving the same tax treatment as that of an individual. Therefore, your period has to be same. It is default period. And you need to mention that when you do the registration for the foundation as well. Now, what are the documents required? So these are the 5 set of documents that your commercial license has to be submitted, your bylaws and charter has to be submitted, your details of the beneficiary needs to be submitted, and your summary of asset liability or a financial statement needs to be submitted for that relevant tax period. So this is required when you make an application to be treated as an unincorporated partnership and do not want to be taxed in the hands of foundation itself. Now they may ask you more detail, but these are the standard documents that are required in most cases. Again, procedural, but it's very important because in some of the cases we had one of the US trust as a beneficiary. So they said, don't give us the trust document and establish that the trust beneficiaries are only individuals. Then only we will give benefit. Otherwise, we'll not treat that part or that portion of income as eligible for exemption. So this, what we need to be very clear is that what are the tax implications, like we highlighted to you very clearly, that it is a separate legal entity. Default is taxable, but you have an option to be treated as an unincorporated partnership, right?
Thank you, Nirav, for that great tax summary. I believe you are one of the best experts in the UAE, especially you wrote
And
first
let me
book
just add
about
one more thing.
tax.
Let me just add one more thing. You also have to file an annual confirmation. So even if you are exempt, there is a requirement in the guide that you need to file the annual confirmation for the foundation. Of course, the format and all is not yet out, but it will come out. But therefore, once you are exempted, also they need information. So you need to file that information as well, because even for charities right now,
Yeah.
they ask you the information, they ask you that you are meeting all the condition, and you have to file that every year. So similar concept will also exist for the foundation going forward. Okay.
And if they change something in the structure within a calendar year, what is the notice period for them to notify federal
So what do you mean by
authorities?
change?
For
That's the
example,
first part.
adding new beneficiaries or removing.
So as long as the beneficiaries are individual, they are
No.
agnostic.
Okay, perfect.
But if when you do that same thing that we are saying, that when you file the annual confirmation, you'll have to update those details.
Okay.
But otherwise there is no such thing like updating a foundation's registration for change in the beneficiary,
Perfect.
because they are not asking for a beneficiary detail when you register them. What do you think?
I think it's very clear and it's great news. It looks simple, but I don't think so. They definitely need tax expert, and I would recommend to reach out to you because I hear a lot from the market that many foundations got exempt now. Yeah, because of this new introduction of the law, and people start to understand finally how to apply the law and benefit.
So that's why we go to two more steps, that what happens to the founder, right? So there are on transfer of asset to the family foundation by the founder, there will not be any corporate tax implication because he's the individual who is transferring assets into the foundation. So it's like a contribution. It's not even a transfer as we understand in the common law context, because he's not getting any consideration back for it. And even if you deem this to be a transfer, because he is transferring at an individual level, there is no tax attached to it because capital gains in the hands of individual is anyway tax exempt. So in both cases, therefore, the founder will not have any liability from a corporate tax point of view of contributing assets into the foundation. And like trust or foundation, there can be multiple contributor.
Okay.
So anybody, any individual putting assets into the foundation will not have any issue with the corporate tax. What happens to the beneficiaries, as long as they are individual, you declare that the beneficiaries are individual, your income is deemed to be earned by individual, and therefore that remains exempt. There is no requirement to distribute that to beneficiaries immediately, and can go as per the charter and the bylaws of the foundation. You can keep accumulating it. And that's what, if you remember, I mentioned a few days back that we don't have clarity in the law on what happens to the accumulation.
Yes, actually true.
And the distribution of that. Are you going to treat that like a dividend? Or it's just a share of the capital which is being returned? So this part is not clarified in the UAE corporate tax as of now, but we do expect that within some time. Of course, at step we already made a representation to FTA, to address this part which is left behind, because most of the other thing they've taken care of.
Yes.
We represented for investment company, they've now clarified that part. We represented for treatment in the hands of the foundation, they've clarified that part. Now we only have ambiguity on accumulation and distribution, which we hope that it will also come in due course of time, And these are the compliances, and you want to talk about that, then you can, discuss this part. Because a foundation needs to file FATCA CRS filing, DIFC, ADGM, RAC, ICC, everybody wants that. It needs to do corporate tax registration. It needs to do the annual corporate tax filing, either in form of asking for exemption or filing that confirmation, and annual KYC and all that you need to do. So these are standard compliance requirement for any structure. I'm not saying it's no, but just the two part of the corporate tax is what we wanted to specifically highlight. So that kind of takes care of the most of the tax aspect of it. And now we can look at which jurisdiction can start helping you to do it better,
Yeah, they offer a quite similar product, and even pricing is similar. We cannot say one option is more expensive or cheaper than the other one, because in long run you would require different certificates. When you start amendment, maybe cost-effective option become no more cost-effective option in long run, and also depends on the final goal proposed, what would be the assets. So, for example, if the IFC Foundation will hold the IFC property, which exempt from transfer tax if it's located in the IFC, is really great. But in the case, for example, if the foundation is based in IDGM, then it's restricted to hold only IDGM property. So setting up...
No, let me clarify that. IDGM and DIFC Foundation, we have seen which are acceptable by most of the land departments across all the 7 Emirates.
Good, that's great.
So ADGM is accepted by Dubai Land Department also, RAK also. But what is happening is vice versa is not true. If you're setting up a foundation in RAK ICC, at times the RAK Foundation has been denied the transfer of the property in, say, Dubai Land Department.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that is the issue which is going on right now. But I think RAK ICC and RAK Free Zone is very well aware of this, and they are already looking to address this, because the recent amendment to the RAK Foundation regime was also to address this lacuna, that their regime was thought to be very lax, and therefore they have kind of made it more appealing and more acceptable from that perspective. So hopefully they'll get resolved soon, but you need to check this practical aspect.
Yes, case to case, and also depends, it was mentioned, where the property is located. So the most important, if you setting up foundation with us, to tell what is your long-term plan and what would be the assets in next 10, 15, 20 years. And also, if you're advising your clients, for example, if you setting up foundations and you register it with one of the jurisdiction, always try to understand, plan for next generations, because client is choosing foundation for long run, and sometimes the solution which may look more expensive in the beginning might be the right solution and will save a lot of time and funds in the future. Right. The main difference might be with IDGM that it does not permit charitable purpose, and also you cannot morph company into foundation in IDGM. It's more restrictive, and in RAK ICC we can tell the information is not publicly available for majority of audience, but it's also, it can change in any point of time, so it shouldn't be a criteria.
But in any case, DIFC also publishes only the names.
Right? Only the name and corporate service provider
and nothing beyond that, right?
Founder information.
Founder information is there. So RAK ICC does not publish founder information.
No, it's more private. That's why even when they promote their jurisdiction, there always threats on confidentiality.
Okay.
This is the way how.
But have you seen ADGM refusing the charitable purpose altogether? Because DFC accepts charity as a purpose.
We haven't seen the case, yeah, but there are inquiries. But I think a lot of people, they just try to understand the market. If we have clear portfolio of assets such as property, companies, or investment portfolio, it's straightforward. But when it comes to charitable foundations,
so we have seen already the property, the investment portfolio, private banking accounts, operating companies to be held through the foundation, and also in one or two cases, even the crypto assets to be held through the foundation. So all of that is not a problem. Now, if you're holding properties in different countries, of course, you need to look at the legislation of that country and whether that will allow you to hold it through the UAE Foundation. UAE Foundation does not have a restriction on that. But say, for example, if you are in France, you need a French SPV to hold a French real estate,
Yes.
I mean, something similar, you have to check everywhere. If it is Spain, there are different rules. If it is UK, there are different rules,
Yes.
And then you have to also check the local taxes and other, how does that apply on that, and accordingly structure that whole thing. But from a foundation regime point of view, there's no restriction on what you can hold under the foundation.
Yeah, and GIC these days looks very attractive because they have prescribed company for GCC assets, then they have active enterprise for international assets, which quite beneficial rather than IDGM with limited options with IDGM, SPV, and Nexus requirement locally, right? So the full picture is really matter. That's why you need always ask the client what would be the final portfolio, because foundation is not the product which clients set up just for 1 or 2 transactions or they close after 5 years. It's for generations, definitely. And let's discuss main cases when they set up foundations. And of course, one of the most important topic that for Muslim families, it's great tool to plan and distribute the assets for their family members.
Very true, and I don't think it is one of the tool. It is the only tool available to them.
That's true.
So that becomes all the more attractive because this is the only way where they have a freedom of choosing the distribution outside the mandatory Sharia compliance. And I don't know whether you were there for our last event. It's very interesting to know that Sharia is applied very, very differently in different countries. And therefore, one needs to be even careful within Sharia application for assets which are held in different countries because that can very well change. And therefore, in India, they might be more flexible of giving that freedom to the family to choose, and wife can easily own 50% or 100% after the husband passes away. But in other countries, that may not be the case.
That's true.
So even under Sharia, you need to be sure where you are, how your assets are going to be treated, and therefore this becomes the only available tool, as I call it, to them, and therefore it's a lot more attractive from their perspective.
Yes, 100%. And I think especially these days is very important. And the cost of setting up foundation is just a fraction of the price of the assets which it can hold. And coming back to this cost, just to give you a rough idea, to understand that it's not really expensive setting up a structure here and have everything structured in the right way. So IDGM may cost starting from $6,000 and RKCC starting from $3,500, and DIFC, which is in my opinion the most sophisticated and attract a lot of high net worth individuals, especially these days. We can see the bus if we go DIFC, how busy, even you cannot rent the office when you want to have a physical operation in DIFC. Yeah, there is a waiting list these days. Yeah, and the client should be aware it's not complex process. It will take maximum like 10-20 working days to get the foundation documents, and the annual obligation will be to renew the license and keep the records up to date with the registrar.
So the main time is being taken by either DFC or ADGM on founder and its background check and its source of wealth and source of fund
Yeah.
Declarations, and that takes the longest.
Yes.
We also recommend to most of the people who are doing the foundation to spend equal amount of time in drafting the charter and the bylaws so that it meets their objective. And if they want to take a legal help or consult somebody and do it correctly, because these are documents which are going to last longer. And therefore, one needs to be careful in at least having a right thought process to, address some of the future scenarios from now. And therefore, one needs to spend that much time doing it correctly rather than, just taking the standard charts and the bylaws.
Yeah, 100%. And also, in terms of accounting and tax filing, what are the annual obligations for foundations?
So, one, if you have assets in the foundation, you should maintain the proper books of accounts. If you want to be, uh, very disciplined about it, go and get it audited. But it's not a mandatory requirement either under DIFC, ADGM, or any of the regulation. So that's again a choice that you have. But of course, for tax purposes, either you claim exemption, you need to provide a financial statement, and maybe the annual confirmation, you may need that financial statement to support what you're filing. So in both cases, you'll need financial statements. So one needs to maintain that and you know go ahead with that point.
Yeah, seems straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Not very onerous.
Yeah. Let's see if anyone has questions.
Yeah, we'll be happy to
We
answer
do
all
have
your
some
questions.
Yeah, I've
Yes,
got some
Priyanka.
questions already, although I am trying to decipher them through everybody's AI assistant notes. So Yurvi was just asking if we could spend a little bit more time discussing the difference between that slide that we had between trusts, foundations, and companies. So Oksana, if you'd
Yeah,
navigate
sure.
back there and then just highlight that again.
No, yes.
Right near the front. There we go.
So, if you want to discuss this further, foundation as well
I
as
did
company
say
both.
that we could I did say that we could share this table, but maybe just
Yeah.
highlight some of the key differences again.
Yeah, so it's just that trust under the common law is an arrangement, is a legal arrangement, but under foundation or under company, they are both separate legal entities. And therefore, once you transfer the assets into this, they can hold these assets in their own right. In trust, a trustee will need to hold your assets. That's why you end up setting up a special purpose vehicle under a trust which is owned by a trustee, but that SPV is the one which owns all your assets. So in a trust structure, you necessarily need two layers.
Yes.
Whereas in foundation, you can do all that with the same foundation layer. You don't need necessarily two layers. I mean, that's if you want to understand a basic difference. And then, of course, foundation does not have a shareholder, unlike a company. It just has the qualified recipient or the beneficiaries who will be entitled to everything that foundation has. And legal system is the uniqueness I highlighted earlier also, that under the common law system of DIFC ADGM, you can set up a foundation, which is unique in itself.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Mulder is just asking here as well, can a foreign company act as a founder of a family foundation? That's part one of the question. So maybe you can answer that first.
So a corporate entity can be a founder. There's no restriction to it being only natural person. However, if beneficiaries are not natural person, you'll not get tax transparency. There's no other implication to it.
So that was the second part of the question. If that was the case, if the foreign company was the founder of a family foundation, can it possibly apply for tax transparency? But you've just said no, right?
No.
Okay. I hope that clarified that. Sorry, just filtering through the AI assistants. Okay, yeah. Ignacio was asking, in a structure with a foundation, who would be considered the UBO?
The currently the banks as well as DIFC, ADGM looks at the names of the beneficiaries and they are considered as the UBO and they do their verification based on that. And in some cases, if founder is the patriarch, then they also look at founder and do the UBO verification with them.
Okay. Hemant is asking here, do UAE local banks support opening bank accounts for foundations in the UAE?
Yes, now UAE local banks have understood the concept and we have seen accounts being opened with Dubai Islamic Bank, Emirates NBD, Mashrak, RAK Bank. So all of them are open to having the account for foundation. That's not a problem.
Okay, Louise is asking about economic substance filing. This is this still required?
And that's not relevant to our topic today, but economic substance regulation have been withdrawn and therefore no requirement to file economic substance regulation filing since the 2023.
Right, sorry, just got some more questions here. I'm just filtering through. I've gone over to the Q&A section. Liam is asking if an off-plan property can be held within a foundation. Would it
Yes,
be
very much.
and would it be possible to obtain a mortgage against it?
So having a mortgage against the foundation properties is at the discretion of the banks because you need to create a recurring income in the foundation because it being a separate legal personality, it needs to be able to service the mortgage that you are obtaining. In case of individual, they can look at other sources that he earns. If foundation does not have any other source, then banks will be reluctant, but it's purely a question of banking. But yes, those foundation which has recurring income, they've been able to take the mortgage.
And even I saw the cases when they even can transfer property which is mortgage into foundation.
The banks do
Yeah.
give NOC,
Yeah.
so that's not a problem.
Okay, great. Shafiq is asking if we shift the ownership of a foreign entity into a foundation in the UAE, whether POEM will get shifted to UAE by default, or if it's assessed
So
individually.
for the foreign entities, POEM is not the place of effective management is not determined by the shareholding anyway. So whether the shareholder is an individual or a foundation does not determine place of effective management. It is determined by where you hold your board meetings and where you actually effectively control and manage the company from. So that has got no link to the ownership. It being held by foundation does not automatically shifts its poem back to UAE. No.
Okay. Alex is asking about RAC ICC. Will RAC ICC not accept the contribution of real estate in Dubai or elsewhere from the founder?
There was a cases which it got rejected. That's why we want to warn from the beginning. But what is possible to do? It's possible to set up another SPV, one more holding company, which is not expensive, owned by the foundation.
Yeah, so this is what we mentioned that specifically it's not an issue from a RAC ICC point of view. It's more a land department issue. And therefore, some cases, Dubai Land Department has rejected the RAC ICC or RAC Foundation to own the property. Therefore, one needs to be careful about that part, but it's not a RAC ICC or a foundation structure issue. It's more about who is accepting, who is not accepting it.
Yeah, and also location of the property.
That's right.
Yeah, DIFC might have one of the most safest sites
That's right.
to hold.
DIFC, ADGM are accepted across 7 Emirates and anywhere else also.
Samir's asking here about application for tax exemption. For the current period is not possible on FTA portal. Sorry, there's another part to this question. The FTA informed to apply for exemption after completion of the tax period.
That's correct.
Okay, correct.
So you need to do it. If you're applying for 24, you can do it now. If you're applying for 25, you need to wait till December 25 and then apply in, say, first around January 26 and apply for it.
Edward's asking, can off-plan property go into the foundation? I think you already answered that question before. He's also asked, Edward again, asking, for a person that has no potential tax liability, IHT, inheritance tax, in the future, why would you arrange a foundation as opposed to having a locally based will?
The will still needs to be probated, and then only you can transfer the assets to the successors. Here, in case of foundation, there's no need of a probate because foundation owns the asset. So you are removing that entire process of getting that probate, having that uncertainty for even short period of 2, 3 months. So if DIFC wills are there, you can get probate within 2 months, no problem. But that uncertainty is there for the 2 month period. Plus your accounts get frozen during that period.
Yeah.
So here you avoid that entire uncertainty over that probate period, and you seamlessly continue to own, enjoy, and use the assets without any assets.
Hasib is just asking about demonstrating that the family foundation is not established only for tax avoidance purposes. How do you demonstrate that?
So like we said, that it has to have a larger purpose of protecting your personal assets, defining your succession for the next gen, and all of that needs to be evidence. And if you yourself become the 100% beneficiary and there's no other, obvious reason of doing it, then it might be difficult to kind of establish.
Yeah. And also in the UAE, there are no income tax. So this is also the key. That's why it's obvious that people are not trying to avoid personal tax here because there are no tax.
EY is asking for foundations already set up in other jurisdictions, say Guernsey. What is the process to re-domicile to the UAE?
It's possible to redomicile from the UAE. It will be similar like to the redomicile the company. The currency should issue the certificate and NLC that they permit entity to be transferred to the UAE, and in the UAE they will issue the certificate of continuation, and also the assets under the structure they will continue to be owned by the foundation. Same with the bank account. That you just need to have a conversation with the bank if they will feel comfortable for the same foundation based out of currency in DFC or ADGM, most likely rather than in DIFC, to continue on the bank account. I assume short, most likely.
Ben's asking about what would be the minimum kind of assets, I guess, within the foundation for it to make sense to set up it up as a structure.
You don't need any minimum asset.
Yeah. There is no requirement but having property or bank account. It's not about value of the asset. It makes sense how you want to distribute the assets.
Yeah.
And separate your ownership from the asset under a separate legal entity. Because the moment you transfer assets in the foundation, the same as with trust, it does not belong to you. So if, for example, you own property for the company and you own the company, the same, you own the property. But if you transfer the property to the foundation, you don't own the property anymore.
And Imran's just asking about confidentiality with foundations in the UAE. You know, what information is disclosed?
As we mentioned, DIFC and ADGM, they're more transparent. You can see the name of foundation, the day of establishment, founder name, and corporate service provider, which is actually good. You can see if you work with a trusted provider, if they really have the license in the relevant jurisdiction, because it's very easy to check online, right? And we have our license in all 3 jurisdictions. I'm happy to assist our clients. So RAC ACC is more higher level of privacy, and the information will not be available about founder beneficiaries at their public website. However, regarding constitutional documents, you have to submit your charter to the registrar. It's not publicly available, but you have to notify them what would be the charter and how the foundation will function.
Great. We're getting a couple more questions about who would be the beneficial owner. So maybe the UBO. So just clarify that one more time, because I think maybe somebody has missed what you said.
Either founder or the beneficiaries are treated at the UBO, and not anyone else.
Yeah.
Roy's asked here for DIFC QIF funds to be exempt from corporate tax. No single investor can hold more than 30% of the fund. While foundation is a see-through entity, is FTA familiar to see through a fund investor? Oh, that's quite a complex question.
I mean, look, for fund ownership, we'll have to look at separately, but foundation cannot be used to bypass those regulations. So one needs to be careful of how they structure the investment into the fund. But we need to discuss that in detail with them.
Okay. So maybe Roy, we can reach out to you separately to discuss that. I don't think. Oh, sorry. One more question coming through from Ben. You covered the setup costs, but what would be the annual fee for ongoing management typically?
In case if you would require to have a council seat from the corporate service provider, the fee may start from $7,000 annually based on the portfolio of investments and structure, how complex is structure. But as it was mentioned, founder can still be council seat. We don't really recommend this structure, but it's possible. Or he can appoint another 2 council seats from other parties who are not beneficiaries or they are not part of the structure.
I mean, so
Okay,
recurring
great.
cost apart from the council cost will be
Yeah.
somewhere around $3,000.
Yeah, from $3,000 to $5,000 to
Yeah.
renew the foundation license, which will include the registered office and registered agent. In case with DIFC, there is another opportunity to lease a separate office, physical or FlexiDesk, which will allow you to obtain the residency visa. And then definitely, if it is FlexiDesk, the cost will
go up. Yeah.
will be around $6,000 extra. And if it's proper physical office, I believe in the IOC, it can be
Depending on the size of the office that you take. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to keep in mind, so license renewal cost, agent and registered address renewal cost will be your annual obligation. And accounting you do in-house or you can hire professional accounting firm. Audit is not required at the moment.
Okay, great. Mulder, actually, the team already answered your question. So yes, a foreign company can act as a founder, but it wouldn't apply for tax transparency. That was correct, right, Nirav?
So like I said, that if the foreign company is not a beneficiary and beneficiaries are all individual, we can still ask for tax transparency. But if that foreign company can act as a founder, and that's fine.
Okay, I think that is all the questions that we have. So thank you both, Oksana, Nirav, for a very informative presentation. I've got a couple of questions about whether the slides will be shared and the recording, and the answer is yes. So you'll all get a follow-up email so you have access to all the information shared with you today. So thank you all so much for joining us. If you'll just pop over to, actually, I'll take control back quickly and pop up over to the final slide one more time so that you have the team's exactly. So you have the team's contact information. You can reach out to them directly, or you can
also ask for my book if you want. I authored a book on UAE corporate tax, so that's also there.
The QR code on the screen should take you directly to Nirav's book, and the QR code on the right near Oksana will take you to our Middle East jurisdiction page. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and so yeah, see you next time.
Thank you, Bianca, for hosting it, and we had fun doing it.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.